Peppa Pig is such a fun show that most fans don't even notice how many things don't make any sense in the animation. Are you ready to uncover all the mysterious and unanswered things in the pig family's world? Chimpanzees. One of the things that make absolutely no sense in our favorite little pig show is the fact that there are no chimpanzees in any episode. The main idea behind Peppa's show is to feature animals that are mammals and behave like humans. Chimpanzees are animals that actually share some behaviors with people, so it would totally make sense for there to be characters like them on the show. But what actually happened is that the show's creators decided not to include chimpanzees because, in their opinion, they wouldn't live in houses. Just like Rebecca Rabbit and her family live in a burrow underground, the monkeys would do things differently. They would probably build houses up in the trees, and Daddy Pig, who's an architect, would have a hard time figuring out how to make a tree support an entire house. Maybe the reason is that in England, where the story takes place, there aren't any chimpanzees in the wild. But we do know they exist because in an episode called Monkey Has a Cough, Peppa uses a chimpanzee-shaped toy as a sick patient in a pretend hospital game. But why have we never seen real chimpanzees on the show? The answer to questions like this is coming right now. Grab your popcorn, because another Cinewave is starting. Wild boars. Another animal that has never appeared is the wild boar. They're sort of like the cousins of pigs like Peppa. Unlike chimpanzees, wild boars actually live naturally in England. In fact, a few years ago, we saw an image of a wild boar boy floating around the internet, and fans thought the show's creators were going to introduce a new character from that species. But that didn't happen. There's even a big theory online saying that Peppa would marry a wild boar and not Pedro Pony, since that would make more sense because the two species are more alike. The fact that there are definitely wild boars in the area where the show takes place, and the creators chose not to include them, is something that makes no sense at all. Maybe the fans would get confused seeing animals that look a lot like pigs but with big tusks. Will we ever get to see wild boars joining the series? That would be really cool. Pigs. And where are all the other pigs? The pig family is the only group in the whole series where this type of animal appears, but that rule doesn't apply to the other characters. So why? The episode Children's Festival, for example, shows some rabbits that aren't part of Rebecca Rabbit's family. Another example is the pandas. In the episode where Peppa travels to London, two pandas appear at the train station, and they don't even know each other. There's a theory that Peppa's family are the only pigs left in the world because they're almost extinct, and that's why they're the main characters, since the town's TV channel likes to follow and film the star. Maybe that's why Aunt Dottie went to live in another country. She probably has the mission of boosting the pig population in other parts of the world. Will we ever find out the truth behind this mystery? One thing's for sure, if the show is about pigs, it doesn't make sense that only the main character's family exists. Humans. The show only features 3 human beings: Queen Elizabeth in the episode where Peppa visits London, Pirate Redbeard in the treasure hunt episode, and Santa Claus in a lot of Christmas stories. But where are all the other humans? And why do they exist at all, considering this is a show where the main characters are wild animals? The Queen and Santa are humans, but honestly, it would make way more sense if they were animals too, don't you think? And the weirdest part is that when the pig family travels to New York, we see the Statue of Liberty, and it's clearly shaped like a human. So the only possible theory is that a long time ago, the world was just like ours, but at some point the animals evolved. Another bizarre mystery involving humans is the fact that the Queen lives alone in her palace, with no guards, no family, and no staff. Where is everybody? And why is Pirate Redbeard the only human sea traveler, while all the others, like Grandpa Pig, are animals? What do you think about that? Would you rather be a pirate or a pig? Comment #Peppa so we can get to know ya. Birds. Another thing that makes zero sense in Peppa Pig is the birds. Why don't birds ever appear? In the episode Grandpa's Chickens, we see that Peppa's grandparents have a few pet birds. Besides Polly the parrot, Peppa's grandma has a group of 3 chickens and 1 rooster living in the garden. But the weird part is that the only birds shown on the show are the ones at Peppa's grandparents' house. The other birds are the ones that eat flower seeds from Grandpa Pig's garden. See? Once again, the birds only hang out near the protagonist's grandparents, and that makes no sense. Why does this happen? Do Grandpa and Grandma Pig have some sort of power that hypnotizes birds to stay in their garden? Besides making no sense, it's also a huge mystery. Will fans ever find the answer? Crocodiles. In the episode Gym Class, we see Grandpa Rabbit getting attacked by crocodiles. In that story, the scientist is explaining to the kids that the only reason he didn't have a bad time in the jungle with the giant reptiles was because he did physical exercises. But this showed that there are reptiles that are wild and live in rivers. And that's strange because there's also Mrs. Crocodile. She can talk just like all the other characters and even works at the zoo. The weirdest and most nonsensical part is that in Peppa's world, all the animals shown in the story are mammals. All of them, except for Mrs. Crocodile. Her existence is a huge mystery because we don't know where she came from or where the others are. Something even more confusing is that this was the first proof that there are characters who behave like normal people and others from the exact same species that are wild animals. What could that mean? Turtle. Did you know that some turtles can actually climb? Yes, it's pretty amazing, but there's a problem when we talked about Tittles, the turtle who keeps escaping from the vet clinic. Why is Tittles a turtle who needs to keep running away from Dr. Hamster's clinic? This kind of behavior makes us think that maybe the vet isn't a very good animal doctor after all. Is she mistreating the animals in the clinic? Or maybe Tittles wants to climb trees because she's trying to reach somewhere else. Could she be hiding a secret? You know the top of a tree isn't exactly the kind of place you'd find a turtle, so not only does it make no sense, but it's also a big mystery. Sisters. Another thing that makes absolutely no sense is the fact that Aunt Dottie is Mommy Pig's sister. This is definitely one of those things the show never properly explained, so let's talk about it carefully. The first time we ever heard about Aunt Dottie was in the episode where she sends a gift to her niece and nephew, the story called Horsey Twinkletoes. In this episode, Mummy Pig says that Dottie lived in another country, which we later found out was the United States. But at no point is it mentioned that they're sisters. In the episode Grandma's Chickens, Peppa and George sleep over at their grandparents' house, and at one point they talk about Mummy Pig's childhood. But it's strange because during that conversation, there's no mention at all of Mummy Pig having a sister. Another weird episode that makes no sense is the attic, when we see all the stuff stored above Grandpa and Grandma Pig's house. There are a lot of boxes with things that belong to Peppa's mom because she grew up in that house, but there's no sign whatsoever of Aunt Dottie's existence. We only find out that Aunt Dottie is Mummy Pig's sister in the Thanksgiving episode, when she shows up to visit the family without telling them. And the weirdest part is that she travels all the way to England to celebrate Thanksgiving, a holiday that isn't even celebrated in that country. And that's another thing that makes no sense at all. You know what's a real mystery? The fact that you still haven't subscribed to the channel or turned on the notification bell. We've got new videos every day. Hammer. Did you know that Daddy Pig works in home construction? He has to study and understand everything about how to make a house stand upright, and of course he should know how to use a hammer. But what makes no sense at all is that even though he works in construction, Daddy Pig doesn't even know how to hang a picture on a wall. And that's really weird because he doesn't even need to be an architect to do something that simple. In the episode where he has to hang a picture, Daddy Pig breaks the wall and has to fill it back in with bricks. That's honestly super strange and makes no sense. It would be normal for other characters to struggle with using a hammer, but an engineer? That's pretty suspicious, don't you think? Rams. Have you noticed that Susie's sheep and her whole family are all females, and there has never been a single ram shown on the show? And let's not forget the trip to Italy, just to correct a mistake that some fans make when we talk about this. During the trip to Rome, Peppa meets a friend named Gabriella and her dad. They're not sheep, they're goats. In the dad's case, we're talking about a billy goat, not a ram. That means we've never seen a male sheep, or better yet, a ram, not Susie's dad or her grandfather. Maybe one day the creators will fix this problem, but until then, it's something that makes no sense at all. What do you think about that? The roof. Have you noticed that no one has ever fixed the school's roof? Not even Mr. Bull, who's supposed to be responsible for that job. Every time it rains, the school roof starts showing leaks, dripping water all over the classrooms, and that's super suspicious. The only way it would make sense is if Mr. Bull was actually tricking Madame Gazelle just to make more money. There are several episodes where the school roof needs repairs, but the problem is never solved. Could someone be breaking the tiles on purpose? Super Potato. Another thing that makes absolutely no sense is the fact that Super Potato can exist. Let's not even get into the fact that he's a talking vegetable, but why can he fly? That's something with no real explanation. Do superpowers exist because deep down the talking veggies actually came from another planet, like Superman? But if that's the case, what explains why Mr. Potato can't fly while Super Potato can? It really doesn't make sense. You know what does make perfect sense? You sticking around with us. That's why we've picked 2 more awesome videos for you. See you in the next episode.